every child has the right to safe and quality care from the very beginning of life. Protecting children from harm in healthcare settings and emphasizing early and consistent action to ensure safety throughout their lives is often highlighted on days like this. High risk faced by newborns and children in healthcare, particularly intensive care, surgical and medication. In Nigeria, the focus is on raising awareness about safety risks in pediatric and newborn care. In today's program, we shall be looking at safe care for every newborn and the need to ensure patient safety from the start. Well, this is some of the things we'll be looking at today. Thanks for joining us on Nigeria Today. I'm Eukaria Clinton. Now with me in the studio for this conversation is Professor Steve Abba. He's a co-chair, National Patient Safety Committee and President, Society for Public Health Professionals of Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you on Nigeria Today.
Thank you for having me.
And also with us to speak to the topic is Ebenezer Egwuatu. He's a medical law expert and patients' rights and safety advocate. He's also the chairman, Medical and Health Law Committee, NBA, Garki, Abuja. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, let's just look at, today's activity. Can you just talk to us about what today's activity is all about and what you aim to achieve with it?
Sure. The world over, today is marked as the World Patient Safety Day. This is a commemoration of the recognition that the patient is at the center of care and to avoid harm to every patient who goes through our health system. So the idea is that we must avoid all avoidable harm to every patient anywhere at any time that they seek health care. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, have come up with a plan, an action plan that spans 2021 to 2030, where they're looking at eliminating avoidable harm in healthcare. And so today, like in other parts of the world, Nigeria has joined our counterparts elsewhere to celebrate this day and to make it bring awareness to the fact that we must eliminate avoidable harm to every patient.
Today, the focus today, was on newborn. So tell us, why newborn?
I would answer that question with why not newborn?
Because it back to
every human being started as a newborn. Babies are the beginning of life for the human species. So if we give or deliver unsafe care to our newborn, we are eliminating our next generation. So the safe care we are preaching to newborn today is actually, by extension, preservation of the next generation.
Okay, now, having said that, patient safety is a health care discipline, and a practical imperative. And how can we begin to own this practical imperative?
That's a very great question. Now, that exactly is the essence of today's activity. To bring to hearts and mind, the culture shift that is necessary for us to ensure that no patient anywhere, irrespective of where you are assessing care, can suffer avoidable harm. The idea is that over time, based on the statistics that we have now, we know that 1 in 10 persons who seek health care suffer some form of avoidable harm. Now, these numbers may look like statistics, but imagine that this is your sister, your brother, your father, your uncle, or your own child suffering this harm. It moves from being a statistic to reality. And so, it is unacceptable. And because it is unacceptable, like in other climes, Nigeria have come to say, look, enough is enough. Let us move from being a place where you do not have any form of guarantees as you seek health care in terms of avoidable harm, to a position where you can imagine that anywhere, not just imagine, but in reality, anywhere in this country, you are sure that as you walk into any health care, you are sure that you'll be treated without harm, avoidable harm. You are sure that you'll be treated with dignity. You are sure that when you have the right to ask questions and the questions be responded to, and that if something goes wrong, that it will be you can speak out and express your mind, and that something will be done about it. That is the kind of thing we're talking about.
Now, having said that, of course, it's the world over. We're celebrating this today. Now, bringing it down to Nigerian context, now tell us, what is it like for the average Nigerian when you talk about safety of patient? How, I don't want to say bad, how good is it than here?
Okay. I get the context. You want to euphemize the question using the word good. Yes. Okay. We do not have data as to the quantum of harm because, sadly, I wouldn't say we are not a data-oriented people, but that's the sad reality. We do not have data. In fact, through our advocacies, we are beginning to wake. The patients have been sleeping. They have been docile about their rights. They know nothing about it. So you can begin to get data, let's say, from complaints. And people can only complain when they know that wrong has been done. So prior to this time, they had no idea. So through our advocacy, we are talking about patients' rights, we are talking about patient safety. We are now shouting, patients, you have rights. You have one of which is the one we are emphasizing today.
So what are those rights?
Care.
Yes.
Okay. We have laws in Nigeria that guarantee patient rights. One of such is the National Health Act 2014. We have the compulsory treatment and care for victims of gunshots 2017. We have the National Mental Health Act. We have the National Health Insurance Authority Act. We have even the Patient's Bill of Rights, where those rights were kind of listed in short. So a patient has a right to information. Now, this information comprises the nature of your ailments, the treatment options available, still under the right to information. The doctor should inform the patient the nature of the ailment, the treatment options available, the cost implication of each treatment option, not the treatment option the facility can provide, then the probable side effects of each treatment option, and also tell the patient of his or her right to decline or refuse treatment. When these 5 components have come together, you will say that the doctor has observed or respected that right of the patient to information. A patient has a right to informed consent. Now, informed consent, I didn't say consent, informed consent.
What do you mean by informed consent?
Yes, the patient should have been informed properly through the right to information. And one of those rights to information says that that information should be given to the patient as much as possible in the language the patient understands, meaning that the healthcare professional needs to tone down on his medical jargon while communicating with the patients. So if a person who is not literate comes, do not come to show the person that you have gone to Harvard to study medicine. Come down to the level, because the patient is king. The patient actually is the employer of the healthcare professional. Where there is no patient, there is no need for doctor or healthcare professionals. So when the patient has been informed, the patient can now make a choice. Okay, if I take this treatment option, there is 30% likelihood of going deaf on the left ear or on one ear. The patient weighs that risk. The patient weighs the cost implication. If we take this option, there is possibility that you will be lame or paralyzed on one or both legs. The patient weighs those options and now make what we call informed decision. Because he has been informed, he knows the cost, he knows the probable side effects, he knows everything. Then he can now give consent, approval, authorization to say, go ahead with this treatment option. I choose this, or I choose this, or based on the facts available to me, I do not want to undergo this procedure. The patient also has a right to privacy. The patient has a right to confidentiality of his health status. The patient has a right to lay complaints where he feels dissatisfied. Now, Section 20 of the National Health Act provides that hospitals should not deny patient treatment in emergency situation for any reason. Now, any reason includes you do not have money, go and deposit some funds, maybe 10, 20, 50,000, depending on the nature of the treatment. Now, Section 20 says patients should not be denied treatment in emergency situation. What are emergency cases? Heart attack or cardiac arrest is emergency. A woman in labor is emergency. Accident is emergency. Snake bite is emergency. We have it all over. So where they present such case in the hospital is duty bound by law. Duty bound by law not to reject or deny them treatment. However, I must strike a reasonable balance here. There's a difference between dismissal, how I put it, and referral. Referral is a valid medical service. So where the hospital lacks capacity to render the service before them, the hospital should refer. And in referring, you must have observed the patient, then see that you lack the requisite personnel or even equipment to take up that case. Then you write a referral letter or note, hand to the patient. That is medical service. You did not deny that patient.
Okay.
You referred.
Ebenezer, I'll have a lot of questions to ask on this. But first of all, let us, talk a little more or a little bit here about the newborn cases. Okay. Now, talk to us, Professor Abba. We are looking at the focus is, of course, the newborn, safety of the newborn. Now, in the Nigerian situation, what are the most common risks faced by the newborns in our today's society? And how can we address them?
Yeah, there are several. And talking from the context of patient safety, the newborn, the problems begin even before they are born. So we must start with challenges from the mother. And that begins with antenatal care. So the risk that the newborn will face will depend on how well the mother has sought care in terms of antenatal care and how that has been provided. So there are what we call early warning signs for maternal care, which will tell the health service that there are danger signs. For instance, things as simple as blood pressure measurement. The woman could be normal, but at the time of delivery, the BP could become high. But if there is good antenatal service, before that they may have noticed some changes, and so that is where the care should begin. And also, there are other problems that the mother may have that could affect the baby. Now, coming to the time of delivery, again, there are so many other factors. If during that process, care for infection control is not adequately managed, which could be as simple as washing the hands, using alcohol hand drop. That infection could be transmitted to the baby. And even after delivery, the way the baby is handled, the baby could also face the risk of getting an infection at that stage. So that is where patient safety comes in. We need to have a set of procedures which becomes a way of life for us that we need to follow, simple checklists to ensure that we don't endanger the lives of these newborn children. Remember also that newborn and children, they may not have the ability to communicate with you. So you communicate through their caregivers or through their mothers. So you must also give them the opportunity to explain, to ask questions, and to also make input into the care. So all these are the ingredients that we need to look at when we want to ensure that there is safety of care for the newborn.
Okay. Now, Ebenezer, having heard Prof say, talk about the newborn facing risk even from the womb. Well, before I ask this question, we'll take a short break now, and we'll continue the conversation after the break. Don't go away.
Of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different?
We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today, and we are looking at safety care for the newborn. And of course, I have two gentlemen here in the studio for this conversation. Now, Ebenezer, earlier on, like I said, Professor Abba mentioned something. He said the newborn faces risk even from the womb before the child is born. We've seen cases where women go to give birth. You know, that one is an emergency case. Once a woman is in labor, it's an emergency case. When they get to the hospitals, you see them saying, did you register in this hospital? Something like, no, since you did not register. And you see them being turned back, not referred in this case. So in this kind of situation, what can a patient do?
Firstly, let me say that attitude is most unprofessional. Now, it is double ignorance, one on the part of the healthcare provider or professional who does not know the provision of the law, who is not even practicing according to his or her professional ethics. Two, ignorance on the part of the patient who also does not know her rights. Even though she is on the borderline of life and death, that's how I see labor. But if the hospital dismisses her, wisdom demands that she goes seek care in another facility.
First of all.
You have to be alive to press for your rights. After which she comes back to press for her rights. What I quoted earlier was section 21. Then subsection 1, section 20, sub 1 of the National Health Act 2014. Subsection 2 now says that any healthcare facility or healthcare provider that violates subsection 1, if found liable, we pay a fine of 100,000 naira or go to prison for a period not exceeding 6 months or both. Okay, just imagine that a doctor is taken to prison and they asked, what did he do? And they say he refused, he denied patient treatment in emergency situation. The challenge we have here is that a good number of Nigerians do not know these rights. One, where they don't know how to seek redress. They don't know how to lay complaints. They don't know where to lay the complaints. So that is the challenge. But these rights exist. And until you bring a matter to court, the court does not go to the streets seeking for cases to handle. No, it is you, the complainant, the victim, that will come to court to say, this is what has happened. My right has been trampled on. Then the court will grant you justice. There are also professional disciplinary measures. The Medical and Dental Council is there. They regulate the medical profession and discipline of doctors. The Nursing and Midwifery Council is there. The same with pharmacists, the same with laboratory scientists. They all have their regulatory bodies that also provide discipline and oversight. But where these things happen, like I said, Nigerians do not know where to complain. But there are complaint channels available.
So where do we complain? Where
First,
do they complain?
good. So, where a doctor violates your right as a patient, there are 3 or 4 layers of redress mechanism, out of which you can choose one or a combination of them. Firstly is what we call administrative redress. Here you complain to the head of that hospital. I usually advise that you put it in writing. Write a letter of complaint. Go and submit. Every hospital, they will always have this Savicon box. But go to the CMD's office, submit that letter, get an acknowledgement copy to show that you brought a complaint here. If you make verbal complaint, it is not documented anywhere. So that is administrative redress. If the hospital sets up a committee, looks into your matter, and you feel satisfied, the matter ends there. But where you do not feel satisfied, now you take the doctor, not the hospital, to the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. They have an investigative panel that will investigate the case. If there is a prima facie case, or that this doctor has some questions to answer, they will forward your petition to the doctor to respond. The doctor will respond. They will forward the doctor's response to you. Now, note that for the Medical and Dental Council disciplinary tribe, you do not write petition. You go to court and depose to an affidavit. You see the procedure now. For the hospital, you could write a letter of complaint. But if you are filing a case before the Medical and Dental Council, you have to go to court, depose to affidavit, stating what happened, your name, the hospital in issue, your card number, your hospital, to show that you were properly admitted. Then the name of the doctor in question, what he did, what transpired, you put them down. Then after that, if the committee has reviewed and there is a prima facie case, they will set up a tribunal. They have a tribunal that will try the doctor and hand down penalty. The doctor's name could be struck off the register. The doctor could be suspended for 6 months. The doctor could be cautioned. But the question is, how many Nigerians know this? That's professional redress.
Yeah, but I think I need to come in at this point. I need to come in at this point.
Prof, come in here.
Let it not appear as if everything about patient safety begins and ends with the law. Now, in public health, there's what we call the hierarchy of controls. What we want to achieve as a country is to ensure that everybody who seeks care, whether you're a child, you're a man, you're a woman, every avoidable harm is achieved. Now, what we need at this point is attitudinal change, cultural shift. And that is why in the last few years, last 2 years, I must compliment the government for bringing to focus the issue of patient safety, strengthening the patient safety desk at the Federal Ministry of Health, and ensuring that there is a committee in place that puts up a draft of a policy that guides everything about patient safety. Now, what has happened in the last couple of years is that we have moved from that point of complete ignorance and all that to a point where now we have a national policy which has been approved by the federal government. And we must give kudos to the present government for that. Now, what the pillars, there are 4 key objectives that this policy wants to achieve: to reduce harm, to ensure that safety of clinical care, to ensure that we use technology to drive healthcare, and ensure that there is a cultural change to address some of the things that he's talking about. Going further, there are critical pillars that will support this. And because of time, one of the major issues that we'll look at is that cultural shift. We're talking about healthcare financing, which is already been addressed. That forms like a solid foundation. Where we need to go now is to begin to create awareness, to build capacity of both healthcare workers and the population, to become aware of their rights, for healthcare to become more alive to their duty of candor. Duty of candor here means that, I mean, it's It's a relationship that you have.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. Professor Steve Abba, Co-Chair, National Patient Safety Committee, President, Society for Public Health Professionals of Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on the program. I really wish we had more time to talk about this because it's becoming very, very interesting. And Ebenezer Iguatu, medical law expert and patients' rights and safety advocate, is also the chairman, Medical and Health Law Committee, NBA Garki Abuja. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And thank you for being part of the program. I'm Ikaria Clinton. Goodbye.